Hey, okay, so I'm going to carry on where I left off yesterday. Didn't quite get to getting the structured buffer working. I have since figured out what that was, the issue, and I've also done a few other bits and pieces just now, just trying to fix things. So I fixed a bug that was happening in the ImGUI kind of back end implementation where it's sort of passing pointers into unsafe code and there was an issue where it was causing crashes in the tests, but it wasn't causing crashes in the normal code. Um, I think it was a sort of basically a dropped memory that was accessing the glyph ranges and then doing a massive loop out of bounds and all sorts. So what I can do now is run this, which is firing up a bunch of tests. I have to run them on a single thread because there are problems with spawning loads of D3D devices and also multiple instances of the hotline client and the plugins. But there's a bunch of tests that are there. Some are more simple than others. I didn't want all this output, and I'm not running with no capture, but some stuff is not going um, being intercepted by the test, but that's fine. So what do we got now? 8 tests, but actually, there's a bunch of them which have to run here because I need to build the plugins and there's a bit of work there. So I would like to get these ones separate so then it's just a little bit clearer what tests are running and which are failing. But now that they're working again, it's actually quite handy basically to do this. So I added just a test just earlier where this draw material, which was the new thing I was working on, if I run the tests with these guys on, then that one actually will fail. And having the ability to run the test like this is actually quite handy as well. So this one will fail the tests because there's an issue with the descriptor bindings. So that's going to be kind of what I'm working on today and wrapping it up. Uh, what else did I do? That was mainly it. But I also added these kind of utility functions. So if I go into the render code, where I'm going to have to be anyway, um, I added this get heap slot to a pipeline trait. And you can pass in get heap slot for 00 descriptor type shader resource. And that basically will return the slot in the descriptor set if it exists of this, because these are shader resources T0, which is the like textures or structured buffers. So now that will return an optional slot if it exists, and then we can set the render heap if it exists. So that also means that these functions become reusable, and the layouts of the pipelines may change slightly. But if we know we always want to bind a heap for T0 or B1 or whatever it may be, we can have some kind of conventions and we can then mix and match different kind of push constants. And you can also request push constants through here. So that API feels much nicer. This push constants API is in the back of my mind. I would like a nicer way of kind of just pushing structs and kind of sorting out the layout, but that can come in time. So tell you what, let's I just pushed these changes, I believe so. And I updated the tests. So the tests are all running on GitHub Actions. There was just some of the tests had to be disabled. So I feel happy about having them back now, actually. And like I say, I added a test to capture the material system and make sure that the slot bindings were working, and that also felt nice. I started out this whole thing being quite test driven, and I did the same for my maths library, which was also in Rust. Oh no. So now we're stuck. Mesh material instanced So basically, this hasn't happened before, where the actual plugin is crashing. Anyway, what I'm going to have to do is it's rendering through the vertex buffer instance function, and I'm going to have a look at that. But yeah, back to the talking about the test-driven kind of approach. Because it's quite nice and easy to add tests in Rust, it is nice to work that way. It's just that like having to spawn a D3D device and having to deal with ownership problem issues of GPU resources and hardware kind of make it very difficult. So something like a maths library, you can easily quite test all of the expected outcomes, but when it comes into graphics tests, it starts to get a bit more difficult. So it's good to have that back up and running, and if I can improve it further, then I can, hopefully start doing a bit more test-driven development of the lower level components, which will then make it quite easy, hopefully, or extremely easy to port to other platforms and just kind of use the tests as the marker, or also refactor, and that will especially be important when having to refactor code to kind of make another API work, potentially, like something like Metal or Vulkan. You can then make refactoring changes and know that the D3D version is still working and all the examples are still working. So that's the direction I'm going in, but it is bit more difficult. It's not as easy as said than done. Okay. So now I'm going to have a look in the actual shader itself. Was it tests or is it debug? Mesh material instance. Material instanced, and now we have a constant buffer on slot 0 as well, and a shader register on slot 1, vertex and vertex. So that's a bit weird. Let's have a look at the code of the thing. I think my actual font size is going to be a little bit smaller than I've usually been doing it. Bump it up to jumbo size. Okay, so we have cbuffer instance data, that's on B1, and then we have structured buffer, which is on T0. Oh, I had to do a little bit of work in the shader compiler as well, or to just kind of handle local declarations of kind of resource types, and not get them confused with the declarations, which is okay. So root parameter 1 of visibility vertex, descriptor slot 0 overlaps another root parameter with visibility vertex. This is still kind of this descriptor layout thing is still causing me a bit of confusion. So that's the JSON. Mesh material instanced. Push constants, we have view push constants. So they're the ones that go on 0. Shader register 1. This doesn't seem right. We have a shader register of 1 for the shader resource. Non-descriptors. So there's constant buffer and shader register. We should be using the cbuffer instance, you see, in the VS Mesh material instanced. So what it could be thinking is maybe the type of okay, the structured buffer, category, structured buffers, identify, get resource category, structured buffers. What I'm wondering is, there is somewhere where we put into here shader resource. That's the type. E is a shader resource. B, and these ones, okay. So this shader, I'm gonna have to look at the raw shader itself. Tests or debug. There's one in both. The clicking thing. Oh, that's the compiled version. Mesh material instanced. Debug.pmfx. I don't think it is in here. So I've got a bit of. Oh no, it is in there. Debug. I've got a bit of overlap where it's generating shaders because we include them, and there could be one set of them. So I need to kind of consolidate that really and redirect the lookup. I'm just going to add that onto the to-do list. So what it means is there is a mesh material instance in both tests and in debug because they include one another, but I should just have one in debug, the one where it originates from, and the tests kind of config can just look it up from the correct location. So I might have a bit of done work, sort of this minimize shader duplication caused via PMFX includes. That's something I'll probably just do in my spare time, and it's also something I can do because this renderer only works on Win32. I have to be on my desktop machine. I don't have a Windows laptop. I have a Mac laptop, and sometimes it is nice to do a little bit of work remotely, and the shaders kind of stuff is possible to still do that. Even though you're compiling HLSL, you can still output the metadata and so forth. So find offsets and bind heaps. So that one's done. I'm pretty sure that is done because I'm using the function now, and it makes it a bit clearer. I know you can specify also your kind of descriptor layout in the shader HLSL explicitly, but PMFX is doing that for me, so I'm going to just stick with that for now. Structured buffer instances, that was what I was working on. Didn't really look at the 32-bit constants thing. I didn't get around to fixing the timestamp inconsistency, which was something I wanted to do. But that's where I'm up to. So what I need to check is debug.json. Target. Here we go. Okay, so material instanced vertex layout and so forth. It's got it again, so somehow I don't know what this constant buffer actually is. there's one set of push constants which is absolutely fine. That's expected, but the shader register is not on T1 at all. Let's see if an edit to that kind of build of PMFX is any good. Nope. So what I need to do is look at this mesh material instanced VS, and they're the same. The output is the same. It could be this. The draw push constants is being identified. I know what it is. It's because push constants contains a world matrix, the same as our entity data. And that's being pulled in because we reference world matrix here, but it is actually a member of the entities. So that's kind of a little bit of an issue, but for the time being, just to speed things along, I can hack around it. I think I have avoided this before, and so I'm going to call this entity world matrix, and then that kind of disambiguates it. And then I'll also then make a note to address this. So let's have a look at debug JSON. You're kidding. Is that it? Entity world matrix. View projection matrix is our 0. Somehow it's pulling in this. But the weird thing is, it thinks it's on slot 0. Ooh, unfortunately, this might be just debugging shade issues, which isn't the most exciting or visually interesting. Okay, firstly, so part of it is my dodgy kind of parsing code, which is trying to work out what shaders you actually use. That's fine. This, I think, any parsing happens, things are commented out. Commented code is removed, so that's not going to affect it. Use of undeclared identifier pos. So we do want a pos. And we'll pos can equal pos. There we go. Debug JSON. Right. It's got rid of the slot 0. But we still have the shader register 1 constant buffer, which is actually fine. I think that's that one. I'm not sure how that is being dragged in. Oh, and so yesterday when I was struggling, when it was saying world matrix is not a member, Structured buffers are an array, so I need to index into this with 0, which kind of made me start to think that potentially having an array of the entity data in a structured buffer might be better. The reason I wanted to do it a structured buffer per entity is that the heap allocator already manages like allocations and tracking, and kind of a free list and reusing the slots in the heap. So it makes potentially making accessing or managing entities a bit easier. But also then if you do ensure that you are using one single buffer, then your entity instances are going to be contiguous as they're processed. So they're going to be cache friendly. So that also sort of makes sense. But the main thing here is just to try and get this working in the first place. Something's gone wrong here where these are the wrong types, and the slot is being allocated incorrectly. And this seems like a pretty nasty bug. So if we don't use it, we've got constant buffer. That's on shader register 1. If we do use that code, our indices end up messed up. And so there's some code which is sorting these, which is less necessary. Sorted bindings. It's bubble sorting. You know what? It's absolutely driving me mad at the moment. Oh, for God's sake! Dictionary, mutable dictionary. Dictionaries are mutable and have like references in Python, and so even if you're writing kind of functional style code, you can end up with weird and very confusing problems, and it's really hard to know, is it a reference, is it a value? So we've still got that same thing. Basically what I'm going to do, we have combined bindings as well. Binding visibility. That's based on hashing for binding in here. So now you've got to kind of, if you turn everything into a value, that should invalidate the shader compile. Oh. And it's not. This isn't. I'm annoyed because this is going to be very interesting, to be honest. Right, we have a shader register of 1 and a constant buffer. And 1 and a constant buffer is the correct thing, right? I'm pretty sure it's this. I wonder if, do the bindings at this point have a name? The resource does have a name. And you know, I'm going to just put a name in all of these. It just makes it so much easier than for debugging in the future. And these are all pretty much the same but slightly different, so there's a bit of duplication going on. And name. Oh, that's the hash. Fine. And then my triggering, if I edit the shader compiler, it should trigger rebuild, but it's not. So that's another level of annoyance. Generate descriptor layout here. These ones, I didn't like that. Oh, shader register, sorry. So we don't want to do it on that. Now it's working again. Right, okay, so we've got a constant buffer with draw push constants. And we have this one, entities, okay? Look, these are wrong. I'm complaining because it's my stupid code, and I'm not, well, it's not mine, it's the stupid dictionary, mutable dictionary, doing stupid stuff. I'm blaming Python here. And so look, draw push constants, it's on register B1, right? And entities is on register T0. The data from this is inferred or generated from all of that. Register space, you can put comma space, and then a constant buffer type is B, and a shader resource type is T, because you get textures and structured buffers. And then U is unordered access, I believe. So something is descriptor layout bindings. It's like, is this a dict? It is a dict. And that should trigger a rebuild. Let's have a look at the dependencies. See, dependencies here has got PMFX pipeline in there. So it should be checking that. And that's this file. Yep, dev, PMFX shader, PMFX pipeline, right? So that dependency isn't working. And there's no error pipelines. Dependencies. I'm pretty sure this was working. It included files. Dependency set. Okay, so there's some code somewhere at the top. Check depths if it exists in included files. We're not actually checking the we should be checking this file. For file in dependencies. Oh, hold on. No, this included files is generated from the source data. Then we actually load the output file if it exists. This has been refactored, but I can just use this. So if dependencies in existing for dep in existing dependencies for dep in existing dependencies, and it's basically the same thing as this. The dep should already be a full absolute path. And that's in a try because sometimes the JSON can become malformed. It's kind of annoying that I've got an idea. I'm going to run it in here, and then at least my error window is sorted bindings, descriptor layout bindings. That's already oh no, the wrong one. PMFX. Okay. Right, it's up to date. It's fixed. Okay, that's all right. So now, even editing this file, no, that said it was up to date. I didn't save it. Right, edits to this are making a rebuild happen, which is handy, and that had been working at some point, but I think I changed some things. So now, debug JSON. Material instance. Material instanced. Right, it's still happening. Okay, so the sorting the bindings is a problem, and yeah, there's a few things happening here. It's going to cause a lot of problems, but if I do this, I think okay. Oh yeah, the constant buffer was 1 and the shader resource on 0. So before we sort them, then that's okay. Now the sorting actually becomes less important. The reason I was sorting them before is so I could know, oh yeah, 0, 0 is on whichever slot in the descriptor set, and push the zeros towards the top. So they were sorted in a bit more of a logical way. And let's see if we use this then. So like somewhere by trying to swap and move and sort dictionaries, they are kind of taking over each other's properties somehow. See there? The 0 and the 1 have swapped, and that's incorrect. This is annoying. So what it does is we combine the bindings. So in the case of where we have all of these will be separate bindings, but they're all the same because they share the same register, the same space, and the same binding type shader resources, and we can access them to alias the same data as a texture array, as a cube map, or whatever we want. So let's go with combined bindings instead of sorted bindings. That one's going to just consolidate them. And already it's wrong. So the combined bindings is actually the thing where it's going wrong. Sorting them. Let's see if sorting them works. Combined bindings is a dict. So we do sorted bindings and It does bubble sort. This code is a bit horrible, and yeah, it's kind of not uncommon. I've ran into this kind of particular thing on many occasions actually, with Python. Like, you know, I'm just trying to think of the correct way to do this. Hold on. Well, I'll just do that first. So if I just try and sort them, the current setup, right? We've got 0 and we've got shader resource on slot 1, and that's still incorrect. That is incorrect. Sorted bindings. I don't assign this. Constant buffers on 0. So even if I don't assign it, the dictionary is being mutated. Like, this is why it's annoying. I'm not assigning the value at all. It's just somewhere it's using it, and this is extremely annoying. Extremely. I don't mind the kind of weak type system, but do mind when it's doing stuff like this and it's like messing up my data, and I don't know, you don't even know what's touching it. So combined bindings, and it didn't even complain about that. It's in another if statement. Let's start off with combined bindings equals, and that's going to be a copy of this, right? Combined bindings. And that can change. So using the dict creates a new copy. So then you're not mutating the things. Now it's failing, and it doesn't like this. Like, I just want a, a copy of the dictionary. I've already been over this code and fixed the problem with it to try and get it working. And it's just, frustrating. Dictionary update sequence at element 0. Mean has length 2. It's binding. It's an array. That's a list. Then it's a list of a dict. No. I know what it is now. Fucking hell. So combined bindings or binding in, right, it's an array of dicts. Dicts, yes. It is a dict. Combined bindings, are we appending on that? Append a dict of the binding. The binding, was it a list before? We are a list, so this is where I've been going wrong. list. Okay. Sorted bindings was going to be a list, but combined bindings wasn't. But for now, I just wanted to test, is the sorting working all right? Okay, that compiled, and it's not sorted them. It hasn't even sorted them, so. Descriptor layout bindings equals a list type sorted bindings. And that should make a new one. Okay, so we've sorted them as 0 and 1, but they're still wrong. They're still wrong. That's false. That's false. Oh no, hold on. The 1 and the 0 are correct, but they aren't actually sorted. So that means that's done nothing. Then if I assign that, so the sorted binding now, well, this is, now I'm looking at this isn't going to work. I'm swapping the register. But I need to be doing the whole thing, so my bad. So we swap the entire thing, which is a dict. I'm going to make sure I take a copy of both of them, just so there's no weirdness. So we have shader resource at the top and constant buffer now. Cool. Right, and then let's bring these back into it, the combined ones. Let's get rid of this. I think that's in line with what it should be. Okay. Combined bindings. And combined bindings is a dictionary because the key is a hash. Very confusing. So now, oh yeah, this is values. So the values are, okay. Okay, so I've got 0, 0 shader resource, and now I've got constant buffer on slot 1, which is draw push constants. It's not used, but it doesn't actually matter. I don't know how it's kind of getting in there. Just sort of loosely draw push constants. Draw push constants. It makes its way into push constants. And so maybe it's any C buffer. Right, so now anyway, this one, let's view, what's it called? Debug console. Okay. Okay, I'm going to run my test. Num threads 1. It needs to be that. See if my tests work. Test threads, I believe. Test threads. Okay, running the tests. Come on. Ooh, okay. And did it include... Okay, the draw material 1 was not being included. Which was failing the tests before. So, come on. Cool. Right, so I fixed it, basically. I fixed it by test-driven development. It's always satisfying. So, if I now run the client, build and run the plugins. So it was all my fault. It wasn't really the mutable dictionary thing, but that I did have a bug with that the other day. And so the confusion of dict and list and everything. Oh, okay. Cool. So this happens after running the test. It's saving out the settings, which is not really ideal, but we're still back to this old thing, right? Let's just have a quick test. Geometry primitives, that took a little while. Not quite happy with that. No, it's quick. A little frame spike. Draw material. Oh, it's struggling. Not sure where that little spike comes from, but same again. There's something wrong. Maybe it is a bit of a debug output. It seems to be coming from and to the sample. Or it could be the performance in general, just because there is, like, I don't know how many, 64K or more entities drawn in that single space. So there's like potentially like super amount of overdraw for that particular sort of area of pixel quads. And it might be spewing out some issues that we haven't actually filled the buffer up. So if we go to draw material, the slow switch, which I'm fine with, it's happening, but so debug HLSL. We get the world matrix. We're not using the world matrix at all yet. We just want to do a little world matrix transformation. Input entity IDs, ID, compile. Right, they've gone now. Oh no. I'm just going to switch to this one to orientate myself so I know I'm looking at the origin and switch back. Hopefully this performance issue is going to be bad. So here's the origin, and my structure buffer is currently empty. I haven't put any data in it yet. So it's in lib.rs in ECS demos. It's where all the draw call functions are. This needs a bit of a tidy up. but I'll leave that for another time. Render meshes. What's it called? Render. It's not even in that. So in here, what do I have? There's this function, batch material instances and batch world matrix instances. So currently this isn't doing anything. My notes, draw constant. Okay, draw material. So our updates are rotate meshes, and yeah, we also want to have a one which is, what was it called? Batch material instances. Batch material instances. So if I save that, this should tell me you've got a missing update function and it needs to be registered. Oh, it's crashed. And the annoying thing about that is I can't debug this issue because when I run it again, it's fine, and I can't debug when I'm hot reloading. So batch material instances hasn't been registered. There was one session I did it on a stream where I don't think it crashed. And it was like all of the kind of additions and things were working. Since then, I think it's regressed. So here where we register all the functions, updates and batches, right? So these go in, these actually go into a different system set, which happens after the update but before the render. So similar to this, basically. This is a batch material instances, right? And this is going to hopefully not crash. The reload available. It's not crashed. Reload's complete. Again, I've lost my. Oh my god. Not ideal. Performance of this one is a killer. Batch material instances is being called. So draw, right? So we have, oh, okay. I need to just know what kind of query to make. So we make an instance buffer, mesh material instance. And then we have, I think it's basically, we don't know if we need anything else. Right. Is an entity and an instance buffer and an instances query. Okay, so, oh, we've already got that. So for each entity and instance batch in a query, we make a world matrix. It's the same. I think it's the same because it is just a world matrix. Inside there, we also have this though, IDs. So entity instance data, that doesn't need to be that. This is just a mat34f. mat34f. Then I don't have to do the whole new type thing. Oh, still going. I've not saved it. Right. So we want a vec of not just world matrix, entity instance data, world matrix, which is going to be world matrix 0, and then IDs are going to be vec for u 0. Then instance batch buffer builds failed. That's, oh sorry, so that's actually this. You sure? Did this? There should be a 0, mate. What are you on about? I think I have to do use maths vec for you. Oh my god. I can't even initialize one. I could do one like this. Pretty sure shorthand constructors. I'm not sure where the zero's gone. Like the quick constructors. Right, reload's complete. It's going to have crashed. Yep. And got a backtrace. Index out of bounds. The len is 0. Huh. Well. I'm assuming this is going to be D3D. Oh, also I got the tests set up so you can debug them as well. That was how I was digging into the issue with ImGUI, which has been quite handy actually. Debug console. Oh. Here we go. Yes. Stuff. Come on. How many instances? It is chugging, so I'm just going to put like a small. Oh no, that's fine. The 64s on the vertex buffer instance were performing pretty well then. Draw material though. I'm just going to put a small number of instances in and see if I can get it to work. GPU's been suspended. Why was that? not telling me though. You know? It booted and shut down. It took an unreasonable amount of time to execute its commands. But I've just got this whole thing full of crap that's not useful to me. Removing device. Ooh, right. So it seemed like it was chugging until I added the function to update the buffer. Right. Instance buffer update. So let's just do this. And let's just see if I can get it running again with the kind of dud matrix. Right, okay. It's running and it's not chugging. And it switches nicely to the other ones. Right, okay. So then this update buffer for the instance batch was not, you know, so even if I do this and I don't touch the buffer, I reckon this is going to build and work fine. Reload complete. Right, it's worked and it's not crashed. How about initializing the data, right, with something? So I initialize the data for mesh in meshes. It's going to be a few. Parent or num and num per mesh. Okay. Let instance data equals a vec new, and for in 0 num times num, I'm going to push a new, what was it called? I can't remember what I called it. Entity instance data. Entity instance data. Well, matrix is going to be map for identity. I know what the 0 thing was. Is it lowercase 0? IDs for you 0. Right, that's failing. Sorry, Matt 3-4. Cannot borrow is mutable. Come on. Main has overflowed its stack. Serious? The fuck are you on about? It's num times num. 8 times 8. Well, if that was a problem, then this might be a problem, but I'm not dealing with massive numbers there. What was it? 8 times 8? Not big. Not that big. Right. Hotline RS data. Instance data. So a reference or slice of instance data. So we should see, okay, this size 64 bytes does not match the expected size. The stride, that's the instance buffer. That's the wrong buffer. Ah, right. I mean, I just wish I'd had this, you know, well, that's a different error, but I was updating the wrong buffer. Instance material, we have a buffer component, and we create the buff. And so I'm going to initialize it. Now, I'm going to initialize my data with an identity matrix. Not now, Rust. I'm not in the mood. I mean, this should be. Expected a slice. Right. So it kind of makes sense now if I'm mangling the wrong instance buffer with the wrong kind of data instead of IDs. The IDs are going to go weird. Then I'm going to look up into the matrix array with the wrong kind of thing. So that can kind of make sense. And I'm tired from yesterday still, from trying to get this to work, and I'm just sort of rushing to try and get it finished in a reasonable time today. That takes that could it be a reference? Pass slice data. There is something like that. As U8 slice. So my own error checking in passing the data to a buffer caught that, but it didn't catch it in the update. So there's that to think about. buffer update needs maybe a bit more. Okay. So trying to copy this data into the buffer to begin with. It's invalid for use as a destination results. Copy dest. Generic read. I mean, I create a bunch of buffers in other places and copy data into them. I'm just scared now of not really getting very good error feedback from here. Instances, they have a world matrix, so have a buffer component. Parent world matrix buffer. So I'm not going to touch that. So we need max. Buffer can be a mut or just mut. So I don't need actually the parent. So let me just check actually. Material ID and entity ID. I need to update this buffer with entity ID, and I need to update the entities buffer with its world matrix. So I do have to do both. And I've just butchered the wrong function. I'm on pretty poor form actually. I think it's probably a sign to just give up. Let's go again. Okay. Let indices equals vec new. Right. We have indices. I'm going to just push vec for you, and that's going to be buffer component, and we also have entity ID. So we need to loop for parent world matrix buffer. Well, ID and not buffer. So we push ID into the vec4. We update the instance buffer with indices. Then we have entity instance data. For now, I'm going to just do this one bit at a time. These have to be in the order they are specified, obviously. Come on, come on. Okay, draw indices. That's here. It also needs to be mutable. Expected the U to 32, and that's the old new type pattern. So we shouldn't really see. Okay, it's working and it's not crashing, and we must be updating the buffer. So now if I make data and I've got buffer, update, I think that's it, that's offset. GFX as U8 slice. Too many things are annoying me about this whole process. We pass in a reference to data. It's failed. Buffer, can't borrow buffer as mutable. It is behind an unreference, which is fine. Build failed. This happened another time. Unused variable identity instance. Get rid of that. Don't know if this is saved. Here we go. Change detected building. So the last build, mut, cannot borrow buffers. In mut. It's still failing. Cannot borrow instance query. It is though. My God, is you could have mut, mut, and mut, and mut. Quite a lot of muts. Building, right, and then will it die? Reload complete. Oh. So, reload is complete, but I can't see anything. What can be fun now is material instance, pause, and then we multiply the wall matrix. So we can take that out, and then we got this, which was green green. Can sort of debug it a little bit by passing through some of the parameters. So wheel matrix, row 0, right? Float 4 or float 3. I'll put 1 in there. Failing. Too many elements. Wheel matrix. Input color must be float 3 then. Or output color. No, it's a float 4. It's a 3 by 4. 4 columns. So yeah, actually. It's compiling. No. Come on. Annoying. It's not like it didn't. I don't know what that crash is, where that crash originates. It's a random reload crash. This has just been pretty woeful, actually. I'm not happy. I'm outputting like a constant green. Here we go. Let's just forward input color. Ah, look. There's some data. It's because it's changing and animating. Which is interesting. So, I mean, that's not a bad start. So that some data is, we're sampling the data, and that's coming from the world matrix, and we're looking it up. And the reason why the row would look like that is that it's rotating. So the rotational matrix will rotate the matrix parameters to, you know, it would be red for identity, and then as it rotates, you're going to get different colors. So that's kind of to be expected, although tons of it is black. Do we have one mesh or multiple meshes? It's like, because it should be a constant color, and I don't know why there's a gradient in it, unless we just go be 1 constant. Kind of weird, but still doing something. So I guess randomized each time. There should only be one. This is weird. Okay. Ooh. No, it should be a constant color. I don't know how it's getting a gradient. That to me is quite strange. Constants. It's too much code. I'm too tired. Material instanced. Right. Let's go with good old magenta. Never usually lets me down. Like, the whole cube should be the same colour. Normalize, more matrix. This is weird. I don't understand how would world matrix 0? Ah, this is being sent per vertex instead of per instance. I'm pretty sure. So, come on. Where are you? Debug. .pmfx. So, you have to specify a vertex layout in the config. Mesh material instance vertex layout vs input slot, and that's going to be the name of it. Vs input entity IDs. Go back to the right file. Okay, so now it's constant color per the cube, and that looks like to me like a world matrix. Come on, this is close now. Right, multiply the world matrix. Right, it's working. And go back to draw. Let's go and make, what did we say? It'll crash. It'll crash. Come on, reload complete. We're only drawing one. So we're only drawing one thing. Instance count. Or we're only updating one thing in the buffer. SRV index. Right. They're all, it's drawing tons of them, but I think they're all using the same matrix. Back for you. Come on. Here we go. Indices. Oh. Gonna have to print out the length. Indices.len. $10.24. Okay, well. Indices I, come on. So now it should just spew out a bunch of stuff. Is it even compiled? For God's sake. Did it fail? history's just been spewed over. Can't get this. It is quite annoying if you redirect some spewing out text, because actually it's working. Oh, right, I've got to take a phone call actually, so I'm gonna have to just leave it there.